Boom, we are live, ladies and gentlemen. What a wild week it's been in the crypto markets. We're going to be talking about Bitcoin very briefly, about the Genius Act, and just at the end of this video, we'll take a quick look at Ethereum, Sui, Solana, and Link and Sai, just as an overview. So jumping right in, we've been following this accumulation channel for Bitcoin. What first appeared to be a reaccumulation after decline turned into a pretty nice inverse head and shoulders. If you were in the private bear den, we were tracking this along with a few of the other members. And when you have a nice inverse head and shoulders as an accumulation range, the breakout is usually quite strong. So what's really fun about this moment, and what I've been excited about, is we have now started our SOS, which is short for sign of strength. And one of the reasons why this is such a fun moment for the markets is because right out the back of this is the highest reward with the least amount of risk on the table, where we've followed through this long accumulation. And generally what you get is this backup phase, which is what we are in now. Now, the backup phases are usually not very deep or pronounced. They usually come back to the top of the box. Now, for Bitcoin, that has very rarely been the case. We've seen full breakouts for Bitcoin where the return to the top of the box hasn't taken place, and we've seen extreme momentum out the back. As Bitcoin has become the centerpiece for many portfolios, I suspect we'll actually see a change where many funds will start to eventually switch into measuring their returns in Bitcoin, as Bitcoin is just so severely outpaced the rest of the market. Now, the Genius Act is something that's been really interesting, and I wanted to touch on that just very briefly. We used to always wait for signs from the Federal Reserve about quantitative easing and the potential for new money being minted or printed. But I think we're shifting into a new dichotomy where this is about money being minted. Over the last few weeks, we've seen billions of dollars minted on USDC and USDT. And the Genius Stablecoin Act has made it so that those are regulated entities, giving Tether 2 years to move onshore. This is huge news for the industry because there has been a lot of gray area around this topic for quite some time. And I think waiting for the money printer to go burr from quantitative easing sounds silly. I think the money printer has already been going burr for quite some time, and it's through the minting of new stable coins. And I think that's going to continue. The stable coins are better than most local currencies, and they have the possibility to spread all throughout the world. In fact, many countries use them already. In Costa Rica, my previous truck I bought using stable coins, and I was able to buy a truck from the factory faster than the person who had to go to the bank and get a proof of funds and blah, 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 blah. It was a pain in the ass for them, and I walked out of the dealership with a truck in 20 minutes. It's just clearly better technology, and replacing the old SWIFT system just seems paramount at this point. Now, Bitcoin is better money, but the US dollar could still be a better currency. And that's an important thing to remember. Currency and money are two different things. And if you want to play this game, it's important to know that they are different things. So this first SOS in this backup phase, in my opinion, is going to bring us upwards of the 136,000 and then upwards to the $150,000 area. Now, after that, we could have fairly big retracements where we come all the way back down to the top of the box. This was a pretty big range, and we've seen this before where the SOS actually has multiple small reaccumulations before the final distribution, coming back to the top of the box before continuing to the upside. So even though I believe $240,000, $360,000 for Bitcoin is in the cards, I think it's going to be the stepping stone process where we go up to about 150, potentially capitulate most of that into a larger SOS and backup phase to where we'll look back and go, scale and variance, you had me again. This is actually the SOS and the backup phase. But for right now, this small accumulation range that we can view very clearly on the 2 hour is what has my interest the most piqued. I'll zoom in here. Here we see a pretty clean horizontal trading range for Bitcoin forming on the 2 hour. And I think we've actually just hit the spring of this. I got pushed out of one of my Bitcoin positions this morning, which hurt right here, right at the wick of this spring. So I feel that was the spring. I've had that happen before. The spring has pushed me out in early accumulations where I've been trying to accumulate through the shakeout and the secondary test. So I believe right now what we're going to see is a fairly large retracement for many of the other assets. So for instance, Link has been only up. And on the daily and the 6 hour, we have not we are actually resetting on the 6 hour, but on the daily we have not reset. Whereas with Bitcoin here on the daily, we're cruising down near to the bottom and almost fully reset for the 6 hour or for the daily. And the 6 hour has actually been reset for almost a week. This reset of the 6 hour here, to me, signals we are ready to go up, and probably pretty strongly afterwards. My next targets are between 130 and 136,000. So this 2 hour reaccumulation bar is looking pretty tasty here. And it makes a lot of sense that most of the other assets have run in that case. Solana's up significantly. Sui is up significantly. Ethereum is up significantly. Fetch, trying to break out through its box but couldn't. And Link also up significantly, peaking out all of its stochastic and RSIs. I suspect that as those start to retrace, many of those profits are going to be taken back into Bitcoin. I think more than ever, throughout my entire thesis of Bitcoin being the North Star and guiding light of our portfolio, the venture stuff is going to start taking profits back into Bitcoin too. I think it'll become mandate for many people. So this only makes sense to me that a lot of those tokens that were up will get pushed back into Bitcoin's price as for its next leg up. So the profits will roll out of Ethereum back into Bitcoin, out of Solana and back into Bitcoin. And it looks like the perfect setup here. We have been in this accumulation channel for almost 13 days now. And as far as backups go, that's right around the perfect amount of time. I suspect probably in the next 48 to 72 hours, we're going to see if I'm correct on that. Mind you, we were still looking for a potential spring as low as 113,000. That would have been nice. It doesn't look like we're going to get that. I do have a few buys set up down that low just in case to add to the bucket. But for now, bucket is full on longs for Bitcoin. And the last point I wanted to lead with was, as time moves on, one of the reasons why I stopped being super interested in Ethereum was we had this beautiful horizontal trading range set up here. And as you can tell, we had a nice SOS and what would have been a backup phase, total failure all the way back into the box. There's a few things that happened here. Number one, there's a lot of hidden liquidity in these assets, and a perfect reaccumulation range here was disintegrated. It's one of the reasons why I've moved into trading Bitcoin specifically, is because the market makers here are so fucking big that we just don't have that destruction of asset price anymore. Now, is there a reason to believe that Ethereum could do very well in the next 120 days? And the answer is yes. If you read the Genius and the Stablecoin Act, over the next 12 months or the next 6 months, they're going to turn the printing press on via USDT and USDC. And we could see monetary inflation like we've never motherfucking seen before. And it's one of the things I've argued for a really long time. We are in such a deflationary period with how strong AI technology is for job replacement and the reduction of energy costs through the scaling of AI, that they're going to need to print a fucking enormous amount of money into the system just to keep it alive. They're going to need to inflate dramatically, because if they don't, there's going to be no money going to anybody and the velocity of currency would basically fucking die. So it's my current contention that over the next 6 months, when the Genius Act turns on, what you will see is a massive flood of USDC and USDT into pumping up these markets as the US dominates AI, dominates nuclear fission, and really starts to drive home the need for this decentralized currency. Now, where we go after that, it's anybody's guess. But I think the next 6 months, most of what Ethereum has put in will probably retrace back down to the mean reversion here as we see what's the potential of a new accumulation range taking place here. This was the spring. We've just seen a test. We've run up and we're likely to see the LPS. Now where that goes here for Ethereum, we could make a few guesses, but what I'm going to start doing is making individual videos for each of the assets. Many of you have asked this before and I haven't done it. So I'm just going to start doing it and make these short 5 to 10 minute videos per asset and just plow through all of them as quickly as I can. Today, I just briefly went over some of them to show that they were oversold, but I will, due to the Bear family's request, pound those out for you. Now, if you want, go to arcanebear.com, sign up for a newsletter. If you're interested, again, you can sign up for the private newsletter. It's a no question money back guarantee. So remember, the disease of the average investor comes from overtrading and a lack of community and education. So if you want, join the private group by going to arcanebear.com/private. And if you're not happy for some reason with the content that we're producing, we just give you no questions asked money back guarantee. We'll see you guys again in the next episode. I'm going to be going over as many assets and tokens as I possibly can. So if there's something you want me to look at, drop them in the comments below. And over the next week, I will do exactly that. This is T with the Arcane Bear. We'll see you guys again on the next episode.